A very good afternoon and welcome to the daily webinar with myself, Giles Coughlin. Very good afternoon to you. We are here in the fallout from President US Trump's tariff news, and we'll just be unpacking that. Wow, we are really waking up to some uncertainty today. It's pretty wild out there. Let's get stuck in. Now looking at markets, you can see that equity futures for the S&P Dow down sharply, NASDAQ down sharply, DAX, Euro Stocks, FTSE 100, volatility sharply higher.
And also just getting an update from Vietnam. Its trade minister has sent a diplomatic note to the
It's going to turn that off. There's going to be tariff headlines coming out all through this morning. The world is really roiling with how to respond to the tariffs, and there's just general panic. So you can see equity market sharply lower, yen and the Swiss franc higher, the dollar weakest currency of the day, with the expectations that the Fed is now going to be cutting interest rates 4 times this year. You can see those interest rate expectations shifted out of the tariff announcements even further. 3 interest rate cuts now expected this year. It's a stagflationary environment where lower growth, higher prices due to imports becoming more expensive in the US, all of that sort of weighing on the prospects of US growth. The bond market is seeing strong bids coming into it. Let's just see here. See strong bids coming into the bond market. Markets are fearful, they're buying bonds. And you can see commodities are sharply lower. Gold sharply lower. Now, I would expect that dip to be bought eventually. The reason touted for gold being lower is that there was fear that there was going to be some import taxation on gold imports to the US. Now, gold imports have been exempted. So there's some talk that that's impacting gold prices at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if that dip eventually gets bought. Oil lower on expectations that global demand for it is going to be decreased because global demand and global trade is going to be reduced by these tariffs. Copper lower. Silver probably being hit by that double whammy of it's a bit of an industrial metal as well. So it's just fear. And you can see the S&P 500 breaking and gapping down out of that swing point into this sort of recent low down here at this September 2024 low 5400. So markets opening outside of value. Just quickly look at what's going on. A quick sort of rundown. The tariffs are all Chinese tariffs into the US are going to hit by 54%. So that should really hit China's economy. China's economy was lifted after the drop on expectations that the People's Bank of China will give stimulus support for the Chinese economy. EU 20% on all imports. UK just 10%. Autos, steel and aluminium 25%. Canada and Mexico, right? This is only on non-USMCA products, not part of the agreement. 25% on steel and aluminium, 25% auto tariffs, energy and potash 10%. And then you can just see this huge list, all these countries that are being hit with tariffs in the US. The base kind of case is 10% and it just works up from there. Yeah, good morning, Konstantinos. Yeah, I think that's and these are the dates that is coming in. April the 5th, April 9th, April the 3rd. So the auto tariffs are now in place. April the 5th, the baseline on all imports, 10%, and April 9th for the worst offenders, right? They've got these higher levels. So there's time to negotiate here. At the moment, markets are fear driven. Yeah, at least we have some action, all right? Markets are fear driven. So at the moment, it's just a lot of fear out there and you're seeing a lot of fearful headlines. But just notice, first thing is there's this stage. So April the 5th, what's coming in, can't really avoid is 10%. What's coming that maybe potentially could be open for negotiation, 30, 20, 40%, right? There's time for those negotiations to be underway. There's kind of 2 goals that I'm reading really from the US administration. One is that there will be sort of fairness, and 2, that the trade balance would be addressed in the US. And I'll just see if we can quickly have a look at that trade balance here. Swiss inflation data, well, that's just, we'll leave that for now. If you look at the US. Yes, I did, Konstantinos. I got some points yesterday, so it's good. Did you? Yeah, there's some quite nice price action actually last night. I was looking at it. I wasn't trading the late, session. I left that, but I noticed there were some good opportunities there. Gold broke out as well. Oh, good, Konstantinos. What are the tariffs that the other countries already have on the US before these talks about this? Yeah, that's what it's largely about, trying to get reciprocity. Trade, it's the balance of trade. You see, the balance of trade is negative, right? So there's a trade deficit. So the US is importing more than it's exporting, and it's 100. So it's trying to, get this up to zero. That's the aim. So it's fairness and this balance of trade. They're the two elements. And this is inflation, right? US consumers will end up paying more in the very term. I don't think inflation is as bad as the official data suggests. So let's just I want to have that Truflation data. What will be interesting is to keep an eye on this Truflation data, which is the kind of the live pricing in the US. The company bills, I've shown this index before, the company bills it as a better indication of real-time inflation, whereas the official data sort of lagging, right? So that's at 1.38%. Yeah, good work, Konstantinos, as well. So some of that are already on. Let's have a look. I think they might be here. Right. So these are the tariffs that the CAS. So take Afghanistan, for instance. They're nearly 50% tariff on US stuff. Yeah. And US say, okay, we're going to put 10% on your stuff. So there's a sense in which the US, and this is, I'm not really seeing people recognize this apart from the US saying, well, look, as you're saying, Anthony, like, let's level the playing field, right? Which I think is completely fair enough. And personally, and this is personally me speaking, there is a resentment sometimes to the US, like, it's the world's policeman and why are you doing this, why are you doing that? Actually, because of the US, there's huge swathes of the world that are safe, that trade routes are open, that are kept and policed by the US for the benefit of everyone. And Trump used some pretty like colorful language saying about the US being pillaged and things like that. And I think there's that sense of fairness. And you could, there's part of me thinking, wouldn't it be if some of these countries, you look at China, for instance, it's 67% tariffs on US goods. Wouldn't it be great if the golden, I'm not naive to think this is going to happen, but the golden arrangement is that all these countries start matching. Okay, we're going to get tariffs from 63%. I mean, some of these sort of poorer countries are bad examples, but if you took some of the bigger countries like China, say, okay, we're going to cut down, we're going to go for something much, much lower, then that figure can get lower, and maybe that will boost trade through the world. The problem with today is the amount of fear that's going on. And when people are afraid, they can make bad decisions. And you look at the global risk that's out there, you've got Russia, Ukraine, you've got China and Taiwan, you've got Europe trying to struggle with a sort of swathe of immigration problems that's led to a swing to the far right within European nations. And the instability now is huge. And it only takes a few little events and a few great big fires. That's the problem we're in. So that's not being alarmist. So it means how we handle today is just straightforward, right? So the first thing is, okay, ranges are likely to be bigger, right? You can see here even like 5-minute buyers trapped. If you wanted that at 5,520, when it stops above 5,531, you'll have 10-point stops. So this means using micros for me on the live trading accounts. I've opened my trading account that I passed yesterday. That's good to go. So I'm going to run with that. I haven't got any accounts that I'm trying to pass. So I'm going to be very sort of steady and stable in my trading today, just looking for opportunities that are clear and worth taking. I've also started a new journal, which I'm going to be journaling it here together. See, I've started it here. Just we'll be using this each day to document trades and to look at how things are doing. Obvious first open today, we're sort of in this Asian early European range, opening outside value on heavy news. So that's where we're at. We take a look at Oh, for those of you who are interested, this is how the tariff calculations were made for only mathematicians. That is a platform called Notion. Yeah, thanks, Anthony. I think it's something that I wanted to do, and I found this thing called and I think that it's going to be a really good way of analyzing my data. I can actually sort it and analyze it and have a separate trade thing. So have a look at it, Mark, and the rest of you. And if it's any good, I'll share all the things I've got and we can spend a bit of time getting that set up. So, okay. It's called Notion, but it's kind of got like Excel features. And it's a way of linking up two things, Anthony. So what you can do is clever, is each day I can have the trading journal here with these data where I'm looking, the typical things. I can record each trade. So I've got that there, and then I'll fill this in each time, right? So this is today's, and then tomorrow's. Yeah, you can do each trade like that here, and just like really try and learn from reflecting. And then what I can do, I can also put the session, and I can put tags in it. So any specific tags that I want, like I could have trending day or news day, just something like that. And then I can start filtering it, can look at the result, set up quality. I maybe have to work out this because this doesn't necessarily work brilliantly with a single trading journal. So I'll fiddle around with it and I'll work it out as I go. Yeah, Nadja, exactly. I may have to, I do much less on the live accounts. Yeah, if I get repetitive stress injury, so I'll be tweaking it, but that's the big picture, and I'll just be using that as part of the review each day, right? So it'll just become part of my day-to-day routine. Okay, so what have we seen? So for today, news uncertainty, looking on the hourly chart, what have we got? We got hourly sellers trapping buyers, right? Here. We've got all the buyers now trapped by this hourly candle into the low of last night in the futures market in the overnight Asian session. And we're opening up outside of value from yesterday. And we're in an early European Asian trading range. And now we're right at the bottom of that range. Okay. So that's where we're at. The key levels to be looking for is here. We've got some buyers that are coming in trying to base off that bottom, and we've got a lot of sellers who tried to come in and take it back down to those Asian session lows. So that's two key areas to note. We've also got this gap area that we gapped down last night, and that's sort of been partially filled and price rejected. So big areas there, big sell areas. On the hourly chart, we've got these areas with these buyers trapped, and a lot of these sellers have come in around this sort of 5,530 region. So get up above the 5,530, that's important. Staying below the 5,500 level, we're in that big round number as we speak at the moment. And we've got the lows of the day down here, so that could be a good area to look for a potential breakout. If we just zoom out and look at the S&P 500 on the daily chart, you can see we've got this big support level just sat underneath with an S2 pivot point. So a test of that area or a pullback and then another sell into that area. We are heavily looking for selling opportunities today. That's definitely the best kind of opportunity that we have, is if we get a clear selling opportunity. The bias is lower, has been for the last sort of 18 hours, and that's what we're looking for here. We're looking for another opportunity really to go short, and the deeper the pullback, the better the opportunity. The other thing we have to be aware of is headline trading today. It's going to be really choppy with the headlines, so we've got to keep alert to that. We've also got some data that's important coming out, but non-farm payroll tomorrow. We got the S&P Global PMI final prints. Not expecting much from that, but the services print is important. So if that comes in like really low, below market's minimum expectations for 49, and we start to see prices paid higher, new orders, employment index weaker, we'll look at the detail, and then I expect another shift down in the E-mini. Okay, so we'll watch that. But it's going to be headlines. So Squawk's on now. I've turned it back on, and we just got to watch out for what's going on. And it'll all be trying to make sense of it. And remember, these tariffs, the announcements, they're all moving as well. This is a moving feast, and we've got all those different dates as well. It's a whole cocktail of something on the 5th, something on the 9th, 3rd. The major things to be looking for is the April the 9th. So just remember, it's a kind of a tiered timing system. Okay, April the 9th is going to be important. So we're going to have uncertainty until then, and watch out for headlines to really move markets. Okay, so that's where we're at. So we've got the sellers trapping those buyers, rejecting that 5,500 on the one.
And folks, just to point out, in wake of that ISM data, we have seen Fed pricing tilt a little bit more dovishly, so discounting a 25 basis point cut fully now for June. Previously, they were discounting around about 20 basis points ahead of the data, currently around about 26. Through to the end of the year now, 91 basis points being discounted. That compares to around 81 start today's session.
Let's just have a look at that pricing. The problem I've got with this short is just right into this second standard deviation and right into the low. It's part of this big sort of range structure. As you can tell, I think if I get something up here on the 1 minute, I'll go with it. I sort of need to find some buyers getting trapped. Yeah, it's giving me memories of when the Fed took a more dovish thing, and I was really eager to sell, and I sold into support, and it really damaged my live account. So I don't want to make the same mistake. I'm looking to sell, but I want to sell from where Anthony's talking about the 5,560 rather than here, unless we get a breakout. I think that's what I'm going to do.
International trade. Shinebaum says many companies will now seek to export via the USMCA.
That won't be right here. If we get underneath the 5,490, yeah, underneath the 5,492, and then stops can be just above the 550. So that's 8.
US general in Europe, Ukraine developing some diversification of its weapon supply sources, but it is still very dependent on the US.
Right, I'll take that if I get it. We should be underneath here on the 5. I've got 20 seconds. If I get it underneath here on the 5, I'll go with that because there's a bit of momentum there. And I've got my stops just above the 5,500 in that case. So let's have a look. Do I get it? Yes, I do. So I'm going to sell that and just see if I get a little move down here. So I'm looking for a breakout of this area. See if I can keep moving down. We're now testing those lows again. So just jumping out of that, just want to take a quick little scalp. Don't quite trust these lows, so just got to be careful. Giving it a little chance. I'm not getting the quick flush down that I wanted. So back to waiting. I'm going to have another go and see if I can break through those actual lows down here. Wasn't bad, really. I should have just too nervous. Okay, folks, just at the final rundown. So for today, April the 3rd, took 3 trades and all winners trades. Started in the session outside of yesterday's value area, trending lower, heavy news on US tariffs being worse than feared, looking for a break of this range. Got some trap buyers with negative delta, pushed that lower. First result plus 2.75 points, just a quick trade. Took another 1 minute entry, got out too quickly, but 1.5 points. And then the third trade, trapped 5 minute sellers on rising delta, and again got in for 3.25 points. Again, took profit too quickly on all of them, but profitable day. And that's it, folks. See you tomorrow with the jobs data, and take care, folks.